Hi everyone, welcome to video editing. This tutorial is going to bring you through the basics of Premiere Pro, pause and play, and follow along with the packet. So when you open up Premiere, the first thing that you obviously are going to need to do is make a new project. When you select new project, Premiere is very kind to you, and it will not let you work on a project until you save your project, which is great because then you never get yourself into a situation where you forgot to save your project and you lose everything that you did. Up here where it says Untitled, this is where you name your project, okay? And project location, this is where you're going to choose where you are saving your project. In this class, we are all going to be saving to a drive, not on the computer itself and not in your personal folder. Premiere files can get very large in size, and you're going to be doing a lot with Premiere. You're going to be using videos and pictures and music and sound effects and everything in between, and it can be very, very large size. So Basiaco have actually created a place for us all to save our files. It's called the Stock Photography Drive. You should all have access to it. Because I'm not on a school computer right now, you will not see that drive. So I'm just going to be saving in here to this folder called Basiaco Video Editing that I created for myself. But at school, you will be saving to the drive called Stock Photography Drive. Now, before we save our project, we have to talk about organization. Organization is key for video editing because watch what happens. Okay, I'm gonna do a little demo here. Choose location. I'm going to go and select here Basiaco Video Editing. I'm gonna select this folder, and then I'm gonna come down here and hit create. Okay. And it's going to create my project in that folder that I showed you, Basiaco Video Editing. And now I have Premiere. We're going to talk about what on earth am I looking at. But first we're going to talk about organization. If I come to my downloads, okay, I have this wonderful picture of a sunflower. Okay, you're not necessarily going to understand what I'm doing right now, but just follow along. I have this wonderful picture of a flower here. Beautiful sunflowers. Okay. This is the first picture that I have put into my timeline to create my video. But now I realize, wait a second, this picture of sunflowers in my downloads. I don't want it to be in my downloads. So I decide to cut it, right? Control X, or you could do it like this, cut, right? I'm gonna cut it. And I'm gonna move it to my Basiaco video editing folder. Let's put it in here. Let me paste. Okay, now it's in here. Now what happens is my flower disappeared. And it's saying to make it offline or to locate it. I'm gonna hit offline for now, okay? What happened? How Premiere works is with links. It doesn't actually bring the file itself into the Premiere project because then it would be too much data for the Premiere project to have inside of it because files can get very, very, very large. What it does is it links it. So it says, okay, you have a picture of a sunflower. That picture of a sunflower is in the downloads folder. So it links sunflower picture to downloads folder, except that I just moved my picture of a sunflower to a different folder. So when I open up my Premiere project, it has no idea where that flower picture is. Now there is a way to deal with this. Like you saw, I could have linked it, meaning what I do is I tell the computer, I have moved this file, so I'm going to link it to its new location. But that would require me to select it, to link the media, to go and navigate to the new location, and then tell the computer this is the new location. The better thing to do is to avoid this problem to start with. This can also happen if you rename a file. For instance, if I were to go to this sunflower picture and I were to rename it, right now it's called sunflower field with cloudy blue sky close up of, and then a whole bunch of numbers. Okay. If I were to go in to the folder right now and rename the photo sunflowers, it would do the same thing because again, it doesn't know where this file is because it works with exact links, exact link to the name and exact link to the location. So that is why organization is so important when working with Premiere. So we're going to talk a tiny bit about organization and then we can get started with what is going on in Premiere itself. I'm going to go back to the Base Yakov video editing folder, okay? I'm going to delete everything that's here. I'm going to close this out. I'm not going to save this. Okay. I'm going to go back to this Base Yakov video editing folder. I deleted everything. It's fresh. This is what you're going to do with every single project. And you can follow along in your booklet. It's all laid out. Before you even create a new project, you're going to do the following. You're going to first create a new folder with the name of your project. Okay. So let's call this demo. Okay, this is going to be a demo project that I'm going to be creating with you. Inside that folder, you're going to make a series of folders. Okay. One folder is going to be called Premiere. This is where you're going to save your Premiere project. One folder is going to be called After Effects. We're not going to be using that at the very beginning of the year. It's a different Adobe program, but it's good to get into the habit of making that folder as well. Another folder is going to be called Exports, Renders, Audio, and Footage. Okay, footage is where you put all your pictures and videos. If you like, you can split it up, pictures and videos. I usually just make one folder called Footage. Audio is where sound effects and music goes. Renders has to do with After Effects. So again, just get in the habit of making that folder, even though you won't be using it at the beginning of the year. Exports is anytime you export a video, which we'll discuss. Before going back into Premiere, I just want to discuss one more quick thing. When you save your project into Premiere, it's going to create something called autosaves, which you'll see once you make a Premiere project, but I just want to talk about it for a moment. When you open up a Premiere project and you save it, Premiere is going to automatically create a folder in the same location as where the Premiere project was saved. So it's going to appear here called autosave. And Premiere automatically saves your project, I think about every 10 to 15 minutes, which is great because there are times when Premiere crashes. Premiere, again, it's a very heavy program on the computer. So there are times when it crashes, even with very high-tech computers. Premiere can sometimes crash. Then you go back to the most recent autosave. Or sometimes you did a ton of changes on your video and then you realize, wait a second, that version that I was working on 2 days ago, it's actually better than all the changes that I made. So it's very easy because then you can go back to an autosave. It's something very kind Premiere does to you. But again, if you don't organize properly, you won't know where to find that autosave folder. So organization is really important. Then you know where to save everything, where everything is located, how to find all your files, because there's a lot going on in these projects. So make sure you always have it organized. Let's go back into Premiere and create a new project in the Premiere folder, okay? So I'm going to open up Premiere again. going to select new project. I'm going to call it demo video. I'm going to choose my location. Okay. FaceAppCo video editing. I'm going to go into the demo folder, go into the Premiere folder. This is where I want it to be saved. I'm going to select that folder and click create. Okay. Now, let's talk about what is going on here. When you first open Premiere, you will probably have something that looks like this on the side. Tutorial tab. It's called Learn. Any extra thing that you see can be, you can close it by next to the tab. You see this tab is called Learn. There's 3 little lines. If you click the 3 little lines, you can close the panel, and then it'll be gone. You don't need the Learn panel. So make sure to close out the Learn panel. This panel will probably not be there when you open it, and this panel will probably not be there when you open it. So I'm just going to close those out. So our screen should look pretty similar. Okay, this is what your screen probably looks like. Let's talk for a moment about what you're looking at. This is down here on the bottom left where it says add your media. This is where all of your media is going to be stored. So your pictures, your videos, your music, it's all going to be here. And then from here, you would bring it onto your timeline. Over here is your timeline. This is to the right of your media. And over here is where you line up all your pictures and videos and music and everything to create your video. On top of that, where it says program, this is where you can see your video being played out. And to the left of that, this is where you get to use effects, can zoom in, zoom out, change the audio, any coloring, any effect you want to put on your clip. This is where you deal with it, up in this top left corner. Okay, when we start bringing things in, it'll become clear. Before we bring in any files, we're going to do something called creating a new sequence. Down here on the very bottom of the media browser is a little, it looks like a new page sort of icon. It's next to a folder, okay, icon. That's called the new item. Okay, there's a bunch of different things here, and we're going to be talking about some of them over the course of the year. But the most important one is the sequence button. Okay, we're going to talk about what a new sequence is. If you select sequence, you'll see that this screen comes up. What's a sequence? A sequence is the place in which you will edit your video. So essentially, it's your timeline, meaning you create a sequence, and then on that sequence, you bring on your music and you bring on your videos and you bring on your pictures, and it all goes onto the sequence. So your sequence is essentially your video. That's what you're creating. Now, why is it so important to create a sequence? And what am I looking at? What this is, if you can see video settings over here, I'm going to highlight them. Frame size 1920 by 1080, frame rate 29.97. Don't ask me why that's the standard. This is the standard. If for some reason you don't see what I'm seeing, make sure that you're not selected on something else. Make sure that you're selected on Premiere HD 1080 29.97. Okay, that's what you want to be selected on. This is called standard sequence. Okay. You want to make sure always to name your sequence. This is going to be the name of your video. So I'm going to call this demo video. It can be the same name as the project. It doesn't matter. And I'm going to hit OK. Now you see, oh, something changed. This is the sequence icon. Okay, everything has a different icon by it. Pictures, videos, as we bring more things into the project, you'll see. And now we have a timeline, and this is called a playhead. Wherever the playhead is what you're going to see appearing over here. Right now, we don't have anything, so you're just seeing black everywhere. But all of a sudden, we have something to work with. Now, why did I have to create a sequence? There is a whole explanation in the booklet, which I would encourage you all to read through. But I'm going to also explain it a little bit here. So 1920 by 1080, what that means is it's referring to pixels. Here's a sunflower picture. And let's talk about what pixels are and what 1920 by 1080 means. So if you zoom into a picture, you can see that pictures are actually made up of tiny, tiny, tiny little boxes of individual colors. 1920 by 1080 means that there's 1,920 little tiny boxes going across and 1,080 going down. That's a standard size. That's a size that'll look good on your computer. It won't be too high, too big of a file size, and it won't be blurry. It's the standard size. If you look at a picture from a long time ago and bring it up on your computer, oftentimes it'll be blurry because there were less pixels in the picture. Maybe it was a 540 by 720. That's a lot less pixels going across and down. So 1920 by 1080 is standard size. For all you know, in 10 years, this will be blurry, right? Because technology keeps improving. But for now, this is standard size. The thing is that images, videos, etc. are all made up of different sizes. Very often in a video, you might have a picture that's of less quality and a picture that's of really high quality, and there may be some that are standard size. Why you want to create a sequence is because you want your video to be standard size. I'm going to come back to Premiere for a moment. Okay, I'm going to actually delete the sequence that I made. Okay, and I'm going to delete the sequence that I made, and I'm going to bring in my sunflower fields. And I'm going to drag it here to create a sequence. You can do that. The thing is that maybe the sunflower picture wasn't standard size. What happens now is my sequence takes on the settings of whatever the first thing was dragged onto it. Let me explain. You can actually see your sequence settings. Sequence settings. Oh, look, that's not right. This is supposed to be 1920. This is supposed to be 1080. This is a totally different size. This is 76775121. That means that this sunflower picture was not standard size. So when I dragged it onto my sequence, the sequence said, okay, what are the sizes? What's the size of the sunflower picture? And then the sequence itself became that size. The problem is that we want our sequence to be standard size. So I'm going to go in and change that right now. 1920, 1080. I'm going to hit OK. Okay. Now you can see this sunflower picture is actually really good quality. It got really zoomed in because it's super good quality. It wasn't standard size. Additionally, the sequence takes on the name of whatever the first thing that gets dragged on is. So you want to be really careful to always, always, always create that sequence first. Make sure it's in standard size. And then you go and you take your images and you drag it on. Okay? If you want to review this information or if something I said didn't make sense, there is a clear explanation written out in the booklet, so I encourage you to look at that explanation. I'm going to go and delete this sunflower picture so we could talk about how to bring pictures into our project. The first way to bring in pictures, videos, music, whatever you want to bring in, is to go to File, Import, or hit Control-I on your keyboard. Okay. I'm going to navigate to my Basiaco video editing folder, to my footage. Here's my sunflower picture, open. And here it is over here. The other way is to have the folder open separately on your desktop, and you can just click and drag it in to your media. At any time within Premiere, if you want to organize yourself, you can always make a new bin. A bin is just a fancy word for a folder. I'm going to call this pictures. And then I can just simply click and drag my picture into my bin. And that's just a way to organize yourself within Premiere. It's not necessary. It depends on how you like to work. Okay, then to bring it onto the timeline, just click and drag. Let's just talk about what you're looking at here. These bars allow you to essentially zoom in or out. It's not actually changing the length the photo is on the screen for. It's just zooming yourself in and out so you can see it better. These bars do the same thing. Could be you could have many, many, many layers, right? And you want to see all of them bigger or smaller. It's not actually changing the image. It's just for you to view it differently. Same thing with audio tracks. These top tracks, there's a middle line here, sectioning off between audio and visuals. The top are visuals. As far as I'm aware, you can make as many as you want, but at some point it definitely starts getting confusing. So I wouldn't recommend doing more than just a few. And the same thing for audio tracks. Generally speaking, with audio tracks, you don't have more than a few. Maybe you have a sound effect, music, and a narration, but you generally won't have more audio tracks than that. Just some terminology. The first track is generally called A-roll. That's your base. Your second track, which may cover some of your A-roll, is called B-roll. I don't think there's anything more than just A and B. I think anything above that is just pictures or videos. But there is some the terminology A-roll and B-roll is used. Something important is toggle track lock. If you toggle it on, you see it appeared blue, and this whole row got grayed out. That is locking a layer. I cannot move this layer now. So if I were to select all of these and move them over, can't move this layer. So maybe sometimes you have a music track and you want the music to stay exactly where it is, or you want a piece of your video to stay exactly where it is and you want to be moving around other things. It can be helpful to lock that layer so that it won't get moved accidentally. And it's very easy to toggle on and off. Additionally is the eye. The eye turns on and off a layer. So sometimes you can have multiple layers happening, or you have a bottom layer and a top layer and you want to see one without seeing the other. So you can just turn it off or turn it back on very easily. On the audio side, instead of an I, you have an M. The M stands for mute, so you can mute a track and unmute a track. So let's say, for instance, you have music and the sound effect, and you want to hear the sound effect by itself for some reason. You can turn off the music and then turn it back on when you're done playing with the sound effect. Or if you're trying out 2 different music tracks, so you can bring both music tracks on, mute one and listen to it, and then mute the other and listen to that one. Those are the main things you're going to be using over here. Okay. In your program window, this is where you can watch your video. This is your play button. It's going to play your video. Right now, again, all we see is a sunflower. And you can stop your video. You can also use your space bar to stop and start. This is stepping forward 1 frame or back 1 frame. And that's about all you should be using right now, is to play, pause. You can see where you are, your playhead position. You're at 3 seconds and 10 milliseconds. And yeah, that's about all you should be using now. Okay, this number over here tells the full length of your video. And this is where you are within your video. I'm just gonna bring in another photo so we have something else aside from sunflowers. Okay, I downloaded another photo. Here, it's a lily. I'm going to bring it into my footage folder. And then from my footage folder, I'm going to bring it in to my project, bring it onto my timeline. Okay, so now we have sunflowers and a lily. I know it's super zoomed up. Right now, we're going to talk about how to zoom out. But for right now, just bear with the pictures. So I have two pictures here, and let's say there is a gap of space between them. If I right click within that gap, there's something called ripple delete. What ripple delete does is it deletes the space and moves everything over. So let's say I had a second picture of sunflowers over here. So now I have sunflower, lily, sunflower. If I were to ripple delete, see how it shifted everything over? Then I could ripple delete this space too. Okay, let's bring it back. If I were to just delete something, no space gets removed. I just hit delete on my keyboard. If I were to right click and ripple delete something, it removed the space that that thing took up. And then I could also ripple delete space in between clips. What's the difference between delete and ripple delete? Before we talk about how to zoom out these pictures, we're going to talk about your tools over here. There's something called hotkeys. I would greatly recommend that you learn the hotkeys. It will make editing so much faster. Okay, so as I go along, I'm going to tell you the hotkeys. What hotkeys are is if you click on a specific key on your keyboard, it's going to bring you automatically to that tool. So for instance, if I hit V, it brings me back to my arrow. That's the first one to know. This one up here, your selection tool, V. This is the one that you're going to be commonly using. This is how you move things and click on things. Okay, that's V. The second tool that we're going to discuss is A. I click A on my keyboard, you can see it jumped me to my track select forward tool. And I got two black arrows. That's by hitting A on my keyboard. What that does is anything, when I click, anything that is beyond the arrows, when I move, gets moved with it. So I can move from the beginning. I can move here. I can move here, but when I click, anything that is beyond the arrows gets selected, and then if I choose to move them, they all get moved together. Okay, that's A. The next one that we're going to discuss is B. This is called the Ripple Edit tool. Okay, before we discuss B, I'm just going to jump back to V, my selection tool. Whenever you hover at the end of the clip, you get a little red, it looks like a parentheses, like a block, like a square parentheses with an arrow. This is how you shorten a clip or extend a clip. You see I'm shortening and extending. I'm just hovering at the end of my clip and then this appears. Now, what if I wanted to shorten this middle clip and delete the space at the same time? That is called your Ripple Edit tool, which is B. That's the hotkey B on your keyboard. Now, the arrow with the square parentheses looks yellow instead of red, like it was before. And if I were to make this middle clip shorter, it also deletes the space at the same time. It's a useful tool. I'm gonna go back to my arrow, which is V. The next one that we're gonna talk about is N on your keyboard. Now, that's in the same place that B was. Look, B, N, B, N. So, B, N. So how did I get, what if you forget the hotkey and you want to still get to this tool? If you click and hold down, you can see the different tools. There's a few different tools that are contained within here. So what's N? N has a double-sided arrow. What N does is when you extend one clip, you make the other clip shorter. It does not allow for a space in between. So if I wanted to make my sunflowers very short and my lily very long, there you go. Now the lily will play for much longer and the sunflower much shorter. That's your N tool. Okay, so I'm gonna bring in a video. Again, I downloaded a video of a lily opening up its petals. Okay, and I'm going to bring it in to my footage folder. It's copying from downloads to footage. Then I'm going to take it from my footage folder, drag it into my project, and bring it onto my timeline. Okay, I'm going to go back to my selection tool, V, and now you see I'm a little too zoomed in. I can't even see the end. And here's the end. Here's my video. If I played it, okay, it's a little zoomed up. I'm going to just zoom it out. I know I haven't taught you how to do this, but just so you can see what's going on, we're going to just do that for now. And here's my video. You can see the lilies opening up the petals. Now, this is a very long video. It's like about 30 seconds. So we definitely want to cut this down, but I don't want to cut out a part of the video. I just want to make it faster. That's what this rate tool is perfect for. So 2 ways to get to it. You can either click and hold on the third tool in your toolbar, go to the rate stretch tool, or you can simply hit R on your keyboard. Now you still have that bracket looking thing, but you have a squiggly arrow. What that means is you can either pull it out to make it even slower or bring it in. And you can actually see what percentage you made it slower. So if I zoom in, you can see it's labeled 64.91%, meaning 100% is regular speed, and I've made it that much slower. Or I could bring it in, and you can see it's 206.99%, so it's a little bit over double the speed. So now if we watch it back, I made it double the speed. It's going to happen much, much, much faster. And it's already starting to open up. Look at that. That is the rate stretch tool. The next tool in your toolbar is the razor tool, also known as C. This is probably the one you will be using the most. What this does is it cuts your clip into as many pieces as you want. Anywhere you click with the razor, it will make a cut. So for instance, the beginning of this video is pretty boring. I like it once it starts getting to here when the flower actually starts opening. So I'm gonna cut it right here, go back to my V selection tool, select the first clip. I'm going to ripple delete it to get rid of the space. And now my clip is half the size with the razor tool. The other thing you could have done to make this happen, I'm just going to Control Z, go back, is you could have clicked and dragged, and it would have done the same thing, starting your clip only from here. But the C, the razor tool, is also a very powerful tool, which can cut your clips into as many pieces as you want. Let me just jump back to what we had. And let's ripple delete that. There we go. Okay, now we have the end of this clip sped up to about double the speed. The next tool is P for the pen tool. I would not suggest touching this one as of yet. We may discuss it later on in the year, but I just would leave that one alone, along with the rectangle tool. Hand is, let's say you're very, very zoomed in, hand just allows you to move throughout your timeline without actually moving any of your clips. I've never found that tool to be very useful, but if you like to use it, you may use it. T is the text tool. This tool we're going to discuss in an entirely separate video and document, but just briefly, how to use the text tool is you hover over your video in your program window where your video is being played, and you simply click and drag to create a text box. Your cursor will automatically be in the text box. So if you start typing, this video has flowers. There you go. Go back to my selection tool. Now I've created a text box with my text in it. And if you see here, it automatically created a layer. Generally speaking, it automatically created a layer. If you made a text box on top of a picture or a video or whatever graphic you have here, it's going to automatically create the text layer on the next level up. You see how there's 2 levels now? Everything has so far been on 1, and now there's 2. If you just made your text box on the plain black, it'll just do it. It'll just make the text layer on the first level with everything else. And you can move these and adjust them just like you can with videos. So that's your set of tools. This is your toolbar. This is your set of tools. And those are all the tools that you will be using. The last 2 things we're going to discuss in this video will probably need to be activated. What does that mean? I'm going to be talking about a tab called Effects and a tab called Effect Controls. And neither of them currently exist anywhere. These are all your tabs. You see, this is the sequence demo video. This is a tab, your program tab. This is a tab, your source tab, your text tab, your project tab, your media browser tab. These are all your tabs. I don't see any tab anywhere that is called Effects or Effect Controls. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to Window and you're going to activate them. All the tabs that are checked off, those are the ones that are currently activated. So we're going to activate our Effect Controls. You just simply have to click on it, and the Effects tab. Now, if you see, if you click back on Window, you have Effect Controls and Effects, and they are both checked off with the blue check mark. The first thing that we're going to discuss is Effect Controls. I'm going to just go back to this first sunflower clip here. Whenever you're selected on a clip, you can go to Effect Controls, and in this area, this is where any effect that is on the clip will be located. So Premiere comes with a few effects built in. Motion, I'm just simply clicking the arrow to expand or collapse the different motion effects. Opacity and time remapping, which has to do with speed. Let's open up the motion effects. These are going to be built in for every single clip that you bring into Premiere. I'm selected on the sunflower. An important thing that you have to remember is that your playhead must be hovering over your clip as well, or you won't see the changes taking place. Position and scale are probably the 2 that you'll be using most often. Scale is zoom in and zoom out. So here we can finally zoom out our wonderful sunflowers. How did I do that? If you hover over the number, click and hold, left click and hold, and then to simply drag your mouse to either the right or to the left to make the numbers bigger or smaller. The other thing that you can do is click in to the text box and type in a number. For example, head. That zoomed it out a little bit too much. You can see all the black around it. So I'm just gonna click and hold and zoom it in till I don't see any black. Here's my sunflower picture. Position is where the picture is horizontally and vertically. So the first value represents right to left, and the second value represents up and down. So for instance, what if I wanted to zoom in on this flower that's in focus in the middle over here? So I'll zoom in, and then I'm going to move it up a little bit and to the right. There we go. That's how I want the picture to appear. Rotation is turning to the right or to the left. I'm going to just set this back to 0. If at any time you want to reset all your values back to how they started, you can use the reset arrows. So I can reset my position and I can reset my scale to how it was back at the beginning. Don't touch the anchor point or the anti-flicker filter. We may discuss those later on in the year, but for now, don't touch them. The other thing that you want to make sure is checked off is your uniform scale. That's going to keep your picture from being stretched out or smushed in any way. So make sure that is always checked off. The other built-in effect is opacity. Opacity is the amount that the picture is being shown. So for instance, if I did 50% opacity, it's 50% there, 50% not there, which means that you would be able to see the black, underneath it. So let's say if I had the lilies underneath it, then I can see the lily through the picture because it's not as there, the picture. Okay, we're just going to reset that value back to 100. And those are the basic effects that are built in. We're not going to touch time remapping right now. Those are the effects that are built in. Now, there's tons and tons of effects built into Premiere. And you find those in your effects tab. Your effects tab is down here in the same window as your project window, down on the left. If you click on your effects tab, you can type in anything that you want to look up. But before we do that, we're just going to talk about the basic ones that you'll be using. There's video transitions, such as dissolve, cross dissolve. Let's say I want to cross dissolve between two clips. How to activate an effect is you click and drag it onto the clip. In this case, it's a transition. So you're actually going to click and drag it in between two clips and release. Then if you play it back, you'll see now there's a cross dissolve between the clips. I'll play it again. Cross dissolve between the clips. Okay. And if you click on the cross dissolve, you'll see you can actually extend the cross dissolve just like any other clip. And now it takes much longer, or you can make it take much, much shorter. And you hardly even saw that there's a cross dissolve. And you can delete it. I just hit delete on my keyboard to delete it. So those are transitions. Slide, you can do a band slide. I'll play that back. That's what a band slide looks like. And you can make it take a very long time. Or a very short time. Again, just like the dissolve, I'm just gonna delete this one to clear. If you click and right click on the transition, you can clear it, okay? So video transitions are probably what you're going to be using the most often. If at any point you want to play around with different video effects, you can noise, stylize, perspective. There's a bunch of stuff in here. And if at any time you have extra time, you're welcome to play around with it. I won't be teaching most of it, but you can always play around with it. The same thing with the audio effects, reverb, an echo. Again, I won't be really teaching those, but again, if you want to play around with it, audio transitions, the only thing that there is a fade, which is understandable as it's with audio. The one thing in the video effects I'm going to talk about right now is Lumetri Color. If you come to video effects and open up the video effects and you come to color correction, you'll see there's an effect called Lumetri Color. The other way you can get to it is by simply typing it into the box and it'll come right up. Now, this is a video effect, so you simply click and drag it onto your clip. As soon as you do that, you saw it appeared right here in my effect controls. And here is a new effect. The only thing that we're going to be discussing is the basic correction. If at any point you want to play around with the creative curves, color wheels, HSL secondary, if you know what you're doing with color, you can play around. But if you have never taken a Photoshop course or have never edited photos or don't really know how to use them, I would suggest not touching it because you'll probably do more damage than good. So here we have basic correction. These tools you can use. Ignore the input LUT and come down to the color and light tools. This is a way to change the coloring and lighting of a clip, which you probably will do at some point or another. Exposure is essentially the amount of brightness in your clip. So this is way too exposed. But if you want to make your clip a tiny bit brighter, I could do 0.5. Okay, this is what it looked like before. And this is what it looked like after. Contrast. You can play around with these. Again, I'm changing the value the same way that I did with the scale and position by simply click and hold and then drag your mouse, slide your mouse to the right or to the left. Highlights. This is the highlights in your clip. Shadows, shadows in your clip, whites and blacks. Okay, and now my clip looks pretty bad. So I'm just going to reset all of these values back to their original parameters. Saturation is the amount of color. If it's 0, it's going to be in black and white. Tint is the sort of like a shade, I guess. And it's going to tint it either to one side of the color wheel or the other side, essentially. Going to just reset those two values. And temperature is the amount of heat. So either warm or cool. Warm is going to be red and orange, and cool is going to be those blues and greens. I'm going to just reset that as well. These are the tools that you will be using to adjust any coloring in your clip at any point. If at any point, let's say I made a whole bunch of changes to my clip. I'm just choosing values at random here, so obviously it does not look very nice. If at any point you want to shut off the effect, right up here by the name of the effect, Lumetri Color, there's a little FX. If you click it, it turns the effect off, and if you click it again, it turns the effect on. You see when it's off, it has a line through it, the FX has a line through it, FX stands for effect. And you can turn it on and off. If you want to delete it entirely, select the name of the effect, in this case, Lumetri Color, and right click and clear. And now we have no more Lumetri Color on our clip. That's the main effect I'm going to show you. Again, you can play around with other effects if you have time. The way to bring on an effect is you simply click and drag it onto the clip, and then it will appear in Effect Controls. You can always collapse your effects by simply clicking the arrow next to the name of the effect, or expand them the same way. I'm gonna bring a transition back on to show you what rendering is. So here is my video. As you can see, there is a a yellow line across the whole top of the video. And then where my transition is, there's actually a red little line there. And then the rest is yellow. What's going on here is as follows. The computer is trying to play your video. The harder it is for the computer to play the video, it's going to put a little red line on top of that piece of the video to tell you it might not play smoothly. For instance, okay, that time it played pretty smoothly, but it could be that it won't play so smoothly because let's say I just drag a different one on. Let's say I do the push. Okay, so apparently these are easier for the computer, this transition, but the band slide is a harder transition for the computer to play smoothly, so it adds a little red line. Now, if your computer is not playing smoothly, you can do something called rendering. What rendering does is it creates a temporary version of your final video. Essentially, it's a temporary, the computer compiles the data together to be able to play it back smoothly for you. Rendering, though, takes time and often isn't worth it, but I'm going to show you how to do it in case you want to. If you come up here to sequence, you can render the effects in your work area or render the entire work area. I'm just going to render the effects in the work area. As you can see, I'm sitting here and waiting for it to start rendering and for it to figure out what it wants to render. Oh, and there it goes. Now you can see that where there was a red line by this transition, it's now green. So that's what rendering does, is now it'll play this little piece very, very smoothly. If I would have selected render the entire work area, it would have done the entire work area from start to finish and made all of it green, this whole yellow line green. So the whole thing would have played very, very smoothly. You can't really see much of a difference because all I have is some pictures of flowers. But sometimes when you have a lot going on and it just simply won't play, then it can be helpful to render. But again, it takes time for the computer to render, so it's often not worth it. The last thing that you're going to do is export your video. You've completed your video, amazing job. Now, you want to be able to share it with the world. The problem is if you come to your Premiere folder, as you can see, by the way, you now have an autosave folder and it is saved 3 times within this demo that I've been doing. Like I said, approximately every 15 minutes. If I were to take this file and send it to my friend, if she didn't have Premiere, she wouldn't be able to open it. And even if she had Premiere, guess what? She doesn't have any of the folders that you have, any of the images that you have, and the computer wouldn't know where to find any of the pictures, videos, etc. that are contained in your video. Remember, Premiere works off of the links. So what you want to do is you want to put it into a format in which everyone can watch it. The 2 most common are MP4 and MOV. How to do that is you can come up here to the Export tab, and that brings you to your export screen. The shortcut key for that is Control-M. That brings you to your export screen. You want to make sure that you are selected on Media File. This is your file name. Your file name will be the same thing you called your sequence, not your project, your sequence. I called my sequence demo video, so it takes that name. The automatic is MP4. That's fine. If for some reason you have a reason to do it in an MOV, then you can do it in an MOV. MP4 and MOV are pretty much interchangeable. MP4 is, I think, a little bit more common, which is why it's the automatic. location, you want to make sure it's exporting to the proper location. If you click, we're going to come to the folder I made, and I'm gonna go into exports. This is where I want it to export to. This way, I'll be very easily able to find my folder. And I'm going to hit save. Now you can see it's going to Base Yakko Video Editing Demo Exports. And the last thing that you want to do is adjust your bitrate. Okay, so you can see the preset. What you want to make sure to be selected on is adaptive low bitrate. What's bitrate? Bitrate is the amount of information per second. So it will include resolution, frames per second. In simpler words, it's basically how sharp or how blurry your video is, or things like that. How much information the computer processes per second. There is never a need to do more than low bitrate. Low bitrate will play perfectly clear on any standard computer. If for some reason you're creating a video that's going to be shown in an auditorium on a massive screen, you want to do more than low bitrate. But for our purposes, don't do more than low bitrate. If you do more than low, if you do, right, there's medium bitrate and high bitrate, your video will just take much, much longer to export because, again, the computer's processing more information per second of video. So again, there's never a need to do more than low bitrate. H.264 is the format. That's an MP4 file. And then you hit export. And it's going to export my video. It's going to encode it. And we can actually navigate to go and find it as soon as it's done. Okay, there it is, it's done. And if I come to my exports folder, here it is. And then I can double click it and I can watch it just like anybody else will be able to do. Okay, and there you go. There's your video. And this video you can send to your friends or family, and everybody should be able to open it very easily. The last thing I want to show you is called Media Encoder. If I go back to my export screen, demo video, it added a 1 because I already have a file named demo video. It's low bitrate, it's exporting to the same place, double check, going to Base Yakko Video Editing, demo exports, it's an H.264. I can do something called send to Media Encoder. What that's going to do is actually open up a totally different Adobe application called Media Encoder. The sole purpose of Media Encoder is to export videos. So it opened up here, make sure it's still the same, H.264, adaptive, low bitrate, exporting to the right place. It's ready. When I hit the green button, it's going to export just like it did a moment ago on my computer. The great thing about this is that you can continue working on Premiere while your video is exporting in the background. When you export a video, just when you hit export, it basically takes up Premiere, and you can't do anything on Premiere until your video has finished exporting. But this is a great way to have something exporting in the background while you can still use Premiere. That's Media Encoder. Okay, I encourage you to play around with the different things that you saw here. You can watch this video as many times as you want, and I wish you the best of luck with learning the basics of Premiere.